The rain pounded against the city streets as Daniel Mercer sat alone in the corner of an upscale restaurant, his worn-out jacket doing little to shield him from the cold glares of those around him. He was used to it, people judging him by appearances, underestimating him. A group of sharply dressed men and women at a nearby table chuckled in hushed tones, casting amused glances in his direction. "Some people just don't belong here," one of them muttered, swirling an expensive glass of wine. Daniel smirked, but said nothing. If only they knew the truth. A waiter approached hesitantly, almost embarrassed to be serving him. "Sir, are you sure you—" "I'll have the Mercer Reserve," Daniel interrupted, his voice calm but firm. The waiter froze, eyes widening slightly. The Mercer Reserve wasn't just any wine, it was a label privately owned by the Mercer family, exclusive to those in their circle. The group at the table stopped laughing. "How do you know about that?" one of the men asked, suspicion creeping into his tone. Daniel leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "Because I own it." Silence. A few nervous chuckles. Then, outright disbelief. "You own Mercer?" Another man scoffed. "That's impossible. The real Daniel Mercer vanished years ago. If you're him, then where have you been all this time?" Daniel exhaled, his fingers tightening around his glass. "Looking for something," he murmured. "Or rather, someone." The memories flooded back. 5 years ago, he was the heir to the Mercer fortune, powerful beyond measure. But then she disappeared. Elena. His maid. His secret. His downfall. She had come into his life as nothing more than a quiet, unassuming housekeeper, one of the many who kept the Mercer estate running. But Elena was different. She saw him, not the billionaire heir the world admired, but the broken man beneath. Their stolen nights, whispered confessions, and undeniable passion led to something more, something neither of them had planned. She was carrying his child, and then, without a trace, she was gone. No notes. No warnings. No demands. Just gone. His father, the ruthless Richard Mercer, had always warned him against weakness. Love, in Richard's world, was a liability. Daniel had searched endlessly, fighting against those who wanted her erased from his life, but every lead turned into a dead end. Until recently, the men at the table were still watching him, their arrogance faltering as they sensed something beneath his composed exterior. "You think you know me," Daniel said, his voice low but sharp. "But you don't. None of you do." The doors of the restaurant burst open, and a sharply dressed man in a dark coat strode in. He walked straight to Daniel and placed a thick envelope on the table. "We found her." The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with tension. Daniel's pulse roared in his ears. He tore open the envelope and scanned the contents: a location, recent photographs, and his breath caught a little girl. His little girl. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. The same stormy blue eyes, the same defiant stare. A child he never knew existed. The men at the nearby table, now visibly uneasy, shifted uncomfortably. One of them cleared his throat. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but—" Daniel stood. "You'll find out soon enough," he said coldly. He turned and walked toward the exit, the pieces of his past finally coming together. But just as he stepped out into the night, a single thought sent ice through his veins. If he had found Elena, then so had his father. And Richard Mercer never left loose ends.